Hello, everyone. I like greeting in other languages. So, bonjour, hola, dumelang, ni hao, sanibonani, hawari. You can add your language. I hope that all of us are excited about today. I have to say that I'm personally excited simply because we are going to be focusing on a topic that is very close to my heart: equity and our collective responsibility to champion it. But before I get there, I have to say that I met Laura a couple of days ago. And Laura, I will echo what you said. And I don't know if it has something to do with, I don't know, I can't say it's female leaders because we're talking equity. But when I met Laura, it was a short call. I felt like we had known each other for years and everything just flowed. And I kid you not, she's going to be in my network going forward. And one of the things that I encourage you to do today is to network a little bit and broaden your network, because this is something that we need to do more of. I also want to acknowledge the incredible work that Barbara and Bea and the rest of the team continue to do to promote women's voices and access to opportunities in the mining industry globally. Barbara and Bea, when I first met them, I was absolutely awed and couldn't help but say, yes, I would like to follow Laura and become the ambassador. For me and for all of us, IDWIM aims to highlight the important role that women play in the mining industry, capturing the intellect, determination, and ambition that we all encompass, as well as the multitude of skills that we have to offer. This year's theme gives us the chance to reflect on how we create a world that values diversity, a world that is free of biases and discrimination against women, and a world that helps everyone bring their whole selves to work. And I've got to underline that. I did not say women, I did not say men, I did not say non-binary, I said everyone, because ultimately, that's certainly the vision that we need to have. Now, in 2017, McKinsey published a study showing that companies in the top quartile for gender diversity on their executive teams were 21% more likely to experience above average profitability than companies in the fourth quartile. So greater diversity in the workplace delivers more results because you get more people, different thinking, and that helps in terms of making you a better business. And I'm gonna not just talk about businesses, but I'm gonna talk about other stakeholders today. But from a business perspective, thankfully, more companies now increasingly regard inclusion and diversity as a source of competitive advantage, and more specifically, as a key enabler for growth. Well, if businesses become intentional about driving equality, they will see positive results in their performance and the bottom line. But despite this, I'm sure that we can all agree that the progress can be improved. Laura said this a little bit earlier as well. So why are we not as fast as we possibly should be? Why is this the case? And what can we do about this? Well, in reflecting on this, I'd like to share my personal story, which I hope will be useful as we consider how we can collectively champion equity. So as a young girl, I aspired to become a doctor. And that was interesting because I actually grew up in a small mining town of Vryheid. But guess what? I had no intention of being a miner. I did not understand a lot about mining. And to be fair, I only got exposed to engineering, so to knowing what engineers do, in my final year of high school through a career guidance session from a team from Anglo who came to our school. The idea of women in mining was certainly a new concept to the industry then, have to say very new. Ruby was very kind and said, over 20 years, let's leave it at over 20 years, Ruby. What's a couple of years? Either way, hey, it's okay. So Anglo American at the time became very intentional about driving equity in the workplace. And that gave me and many other young people the ability to get those bursaries, and they were needed. Because I had a couple of siblings, I have to say, my parents would have struggled taking all of us to school at that point. And in my case, I studied chemical engineering. When I joined the industry, following my years of study, you could not count the number of female engineers that we had at the mine in one hand. It was too much, unfortunately. And I guess you needed a couple of hands to cover the rest of the women in the industry. So there weren't as many of us then, sadly. And for me, I have to say that transitioning into the industry was extremely tough, especially because I came from a traditional Zulu household. So I couldn't really call people by name, and say, Hank, can you please go and do this? I felt like I had to say Uncle Hank or Malumu Hank in my language. And I had to try and fit in. And for me, I adopted a whole lot of things to try and fit in. I'll only share one example. Sadly, I tried to use the swear words to fit in with the guys. And I tried it a couple of times because I felt like, oh, shucks, I'm like part of the team. But guess what? It was emotionally draining and frankly not sustainable because it wasn't me. And more importantly, as a young Zulu woman, I almost used the swear word in front of my mother. And believe you me, nothing humbles you like that, because you very quickly remember your roots and remember the things that define you as a person and the fact that you don't want to be like anybody else. So one of the things that helped me circle into my roles was great mentoring and guidance. And I'm sure that many other women would tell you the same thing. I know that Laura told me the same thing. These were wonderful people who frankly were fantastic in saying, you don't have to be like anybody else. You need to be yourself. And I'd like to acknowledge all the wonderful mentors that I've had along the way. I worked for De Beers and I'm now with Kumba. So clearly the bulk of them are part of the broader Anglo-American group. And I know there's many Anglo-American team members that are here. But I have to highlight that many or most of my mentors were men. And I mention this because I do believe in the transformative power of male mentors and sponsors in promoting gender equity and equality. I recall how one of my many mentors, his name was David, gave me greater appreciation for the industry at a particular point in time. And he helped me see the overall impact that mining has on people and on broader communities and broader society as a whole. And he was fantastic in showing me what, from an Anglo-American perspective, is our purpose, which is reimagining mining to improve people's lives. And the truth is that for me, that was the space or the point where I guess I transformed from just being an engineer into the real start of my leadership journey when I started to look at life slightly differently. And that's part of the reason why I stayed in mining. For me, all my mentors are a powerful reminder to all of us that gender equity is not just a woman's problem. In fact, championing gender equity is a shared responsibility for all of us. Today at Anglo-American, our commitment towards equity is demonstrated by our inclusion and diversity initiatives and women in mining programs, very much similar to the wonderful ones that I've seen in other companies. Does somebody want to help? I can hear the two of us. Oh, thank you. as well as a representation of women in senior leadership roles, including 2 leading our South African-based listed companies, and I'm one of those. And Natasha Feliun leads our Anglo-American Platinum business. So let's also not forget that creating opportunities and equity for women to reach their full potential has a ripple effect that benefits the whole of society. Different countries call it different things. In South Africa, people say you empower a woman and you empower the nation. I know that I've spoken about what companies and individuals can actually do to advance women in the workplace, but let's remember that we must change the whole of society to make it more equal. So government should create conducive policies. Unions must champion women, and communities must hold us to account to deal with all the other gender-related challenges, especially gender-based violence, which, as we all know, increased very sadly during COVID. That's my story, and I've given you a snapshot and told you one story. But for me, what I hope we see is the fact that you can have a young person who grows up knowing nothing about what mining really does, knowing nothing about engineering, entering an industry and learning from others and being supported by others. And I'll say it again, the bulk of my mentors as I developed were men, which essentially means that all of us have got a role to play. Clearly, I have female mentors as well, and female friends as well. I want to acknowledge the progress that mining has made to drive equality, demonstrated by how dramatically companies have changed. But even after 2 decades of progress, there's still more work to do. Just a couple of wonderful examples. Let's just look at technology, which has become one of our best allies and has transformed jobs that were previously seen as physically challenging or dangerous for women. Well, technology has made those jobs easier for everybody. It essentially means that everybody can do those jobs. And more importantly, it's also made them safer as well. As mining has become more mechanized, physical strength and stamina are becoming less important than fine motor skills, dexterity, and other problem-solving skills. And there's many other skills that are required because clearly we look at the whole of what's required. This has made the sector more attractive to women. A great example for me, and I'm sure we'll agree, is that the introduction of remote controlled rooms at our mines, for example, also allows women to operate an entire mine without the need to physically be there. And that has a great benefit around us making progress with regards to the employment of differently abled people, because it shouldn't matter where you come from. It should be equal for everybody. If I look at some of the companies, guess what? You can now mine using heavy machinery from the comfort of a desk, irrespective of whether you are heavily pregnant or not. And surely that's something that was just previously unimaginable. But we'd all have to agree that this is absolutely amazing because it's made the world more equal for everyone. And we need to do more of this as we drive for equity. And again, it's not just the mining companies. All the stakeholders have got to play a role when it comes to this. So as I close, I'd like to challenge us to think about the role that all of us need to play to drive equity. We must eliminate barriers to entry for women, as well as the physical and psychological challenges that women face in their mining careers. And again, it's not just women. Laura said it. I liked what you said, Laura. Diversity is fun. And I like working with people that are different from me. My team at Kumba is absolutely wonderful because they are different people. They think differently. And all of us energize each other. As leaders and colleagues and companies, we must inspire or inspire others beyond our businesses. And more importantly, enthuse the next generation to want to join our industry. We need them. Mining is here to stay. As businesses, we need to shape an enabling culture, develop talent, and create safe spaces for all our people to thrive. I want to close with a story from my sister and a fellow leader in Anglo-American. Her name is Nolita Fagute. She wrote a book around this. She says that women need to wear different shoes for different occasions, but these must be your own shoes, not somebody else's shoes. It's a metaphor for how we consciously utilize different facets of our personalities for different situations. Key, this must still be your own individual personality. Don't try to be somebody else. So if you're a woman in mining, wherever you may be, I'd like to implore you to stay true to yourself. You're okay. You are more than okay. You are fantastic. Ultimately, this is what true gender equity is all about. It's about women showing up, owning their spaces, and being who they are without any constraints, prejudices, and biases. This is a vision which we must all work towards. But let's remember, equity is everyone's responsibility. We all have a role to play. And I'd like to urge you yet again to think about your role and play that massive role. We need it. Thank you.